You're watching Teng Tools Muscle Garage, the home of New Zealand's toughest muscle cars, hot rods and street machines. Muscle Garage is proudly brought to you by Teng Tools in association with Mount Shop, Maguire's and Nitro. Coming up, we hit the road in Peter's big block 67 Chevy Chevelle, and we meet a man with a thing for Dodge's rare Power Wagon. First up though, thanks to Maguire's, we're at Meri Dragway for one of New Zealand drag racing's big days out. The Bethlehem Coach Line's 2019 Nostalgia Drags, hosted by Bay Rodders.
Back in the day, the New Zealand Hot Rod Association and drag racing were run under one umbrella, and they broke away quite a few years ago, and we felt this sort of event for old cars, old hot rodders, should be run by a hot rod club. It was started many years ago by Spook Howard, Whakatane Hot Rod Club, took it over. They offered it to us and we jumped at it. This event, it's all about no politics, come along and have a fun day, and it's just how it used to be 25 years ago.
The Nostalgias are a full-on day of racing that somehow feels laid back, but that's no accident.
Absolutely, it is a great social weekend. You come together, you chat, you catch up with people that you might only see once a year at this event. Bay Rodders is always well known for their parties at night, so we always have an awesome band on the Saturday night. So very important, the social side as well.
The Nostalgia banner casts a pretty wide net, and while not every car to stage at Meri start line was lightning quick, they made up for it in numbers. This is one of the country's biggest drag racing meets each year. There was a bit of something for all tastes. There are two street classes, pre-49 Hot Rod and pre-72 American. The Flathead Challenge is always a highlight, while the Vintage Gas class seem to be doing their best not to wear out the front tyres. Nitro cars, rapid-fire FEDs and 2019's big talking point, the Wild Bunch, who made a welcome return to the track. The class, an early iteration of the one we now call Top Door Slammer. The Wild Bunch represent a golden era of New Zealand drag racing, one that makes them fit right in at an event like the Nostalgia Drags.
They're the originals. They're what we all sort of started with and what we all loved as kids,
The Wild Bunch movement through the late 80s, early 90s was huge. It packed the banks and the Yahoos were there, and it was pretty cool, The rump of those alcohol motors and big burnouts and the antics of the drivers, and it was cool. And we want to sort of bring that back today,
To get some of these guys that have had their cars in sheds and barns for the last sort of 10 or 15 years, to get them back to the track is huge. And not just for us, because they've all been mates for years, and to see these guys back out here is cool. But just for some of the people that have never seen these cars before, a different era of people that didn't grow up around them, that have only ever seen pictures, are now going to get the chance to actually see them in person. So, it's not their heyday, but they're still going to put on a show.
The Wild Bunch are old school, most of them original steel-bodied cars on a bit of a diet by way of a few fiberglass panels. And packing a couple of thousand horsepower, they were the big show in their day. Tynan Race Cars and Matamata built a big chunk of the class's original field, and that theme continued in 2019, with 6 of the 8 cars fronting being Tynan built. This is the car Chris Tynan himself piloted into New Zealand drag racing folklore, a 55 Chev dubbed Rat Attack.
This is the car I sort of hung over that fence over there as a 16-year-old and was just like, wow, check that thing out. So I just jumped at it, There's nothing like owning in the car you dreamed about when you were a kid. It's important to me just to preserve it as it was and how it's always been. It was built to be New Zealand's first 7-second car. When I took possession of it, Chris had run over 120 6-second passes in it. So it's very reliable, very good old car. Pretty frightening actually when you first drive one. That one especially comes with a lot of responsibility. You don't want to be the guy famous for writing off Rat Attack. They're a very addictive car to own and drive, and most of us are broke, that's why.
Expensive, yes, but in the modern world of drag racing, the Wild Bunch cars suddenly seem, dare we say, economical by comparison. From here, the pay-to-play investment gets real steep real quick. Bob Owen's XM Coupe last hit the track in the top door slammer class, but has been gathering dust for the last 4 years.
Top door slammer is just far too expensive for my game. I'm a wage earner, so we just got to play with what we can afford. And of course now when all these cars turn out, that gives me the incentive to get it out and get run, because when I like running other cars, it's exactly the same cars. And there's not that many come out, they all just sit in sheds. So yeah, it'd be nice to see that class come back. People can afford it. It was only supposed to be an 8-second car, but it's gone right down to the low seconds, 7 seconds, and it's the BB Top Street record holder. It's all steel. It's too good to be what I've done to it. It was originally bought for my wife, and I kind of cut it up a little bit and got out of control. It was supposed to be her street car. It runs a 509 big block Chev, the standard 4.5-inch bore, just dart heads, 1471 running 19 over. It puts about between 20 and 25 pounds in it, that's all it's putting in it. If I put any more power in it, the actual tyres can't hold it. The car hasn't got great big tyres on it, so we just run it to what it'll hold on the track. Most of them will run about the same times, so there's going to be a lot of getting off the line first. And we got a die your own class, so if it's die your own, if you can run right on your number, you're pretty well there, but you've got to have reliability as well, of course, because if you haven't got reliability, you're in a bit of strife. And luck, a lot of luck.
Brent Whittingham in the Camaro would eventually top the Wild Bunch class, while Chris Tynan would once again slip into the seat of his old 55 for a blast down the Midi Quarter. If that's not nostalgia, then what is? Plans are already afoot to make this Wild Bunch revival more than a one-off, an idea that won't cop a lot of resistance from today's Nostalgia Drags crowd. More of a regular sight at the track over the last 15 years, Carl Boniface and Nitro Flashback.
We're a nostalgia Nitro funny car, 1974 Chevy Vega body on it, chrome molly chassis, and we're running a cast iron Chevy block and heads, 871 supercharger and fuel injection, and of course nitromethane. So that's where all the power's coming from, the nitromethane. So we run about 80 to 90% nitro depending on the conditions and how much power we want to make, methanol and the other percentage. Get out there and on a good day we'll get down the track 690, 680 maybe, 210 mile an hour. Pretty aggressive because it's pretty true to what they were running in the 1970s in the States. So there's an all pressure gauge, that's our engine management system, and we have a little bit of adjustment in the clutch to help get it off the line, but pretty much once you're 100 metres out off the line, it's just full on horsepower and hang on.
And after 15 years campaigning the funny car, you'd think a trip down the quarter would be getting a bit mundane.
No, absolutely not. I love it. I take the car around to quite a lot of shows and fire it up as well, just to sort of share the thrill with the people, and we put people in the seat all the time. It's one of those experiences, it's addictive, you know. Nitro has a unique smell and feel to it, and once you run it, there's just doesn't seem to be much going back, really.
amazing results, even at full sight.
You're back with Teng Tools Muscle Garage, proudly brought to you by Teng Tools, in association with Mount Shop, Maguire's and Nitro. Right, thanks to our mates at Mount Shop, we're back shed raiding. This week, meet Chris Curtis, a man with a bit of a thing for something pretty rare in New Zealand, Dodge's Power Wagon.
As a young boy, I used to go into the sheds and watch my dad tinkering with engines and stuff like that. Yeah, I just caught the bug. In the 80s, started liking all the hot rods. It was Pro Street era, and sort of liked all the big fat tyres on cars, and that sort of hooked me. It was always in the background of my life, and I've always had that, and I'll never let it go. I sort of got away from the Holden utes. I had a 1951 FX Holden ute and a FJ Holden ute. I decided I wanted to go into the American. I never had an American vehicle. I wanted another truck, so that's where the Dodge Power Wagon comes from. So I Googled Power Wagons, and this guy's trucks come up, Legacy Power Wagons. So I rang the guy, Winslow Bent, and he says, yes, come over and I'll introduce you to the Power Wagons. So I said to my wife, I'll get an air ticket, and off I went. And he showed me a couple of trucks and I was hooked.
Kiwis love their utes and pickups, something that continues to current day in new car sales. For the older versions though, you only need to roll down to your local hot rod show to see plenty of examples. Very few of them, however, will have a Dodge emblem on the side. Far less will say Power Wagon. If you find one, chances are Chris might have something to do with it.
You've got Chevy trucks, Ford trucks, but no one's ever bought the Dodge trucks into the country. I like the four-wheel drive. I like the four-wheel drive. It was big and grunty and high. I was always like a low guy, drop the truck into the weeds, like you say, the C10. But yeah, the Power Wagon just had that power, and I wanted old, and it had everything I was looking for, so I fell in love with them.
Chris and his wife Kim have had a fair few of them now. The current crop includes Kim's 62 Town Wagon, running a 318 and 3 on the tree. The W100 Swept line also boasts the 318, backed by a Dana 60 rear diff and a Dana 44 up front. There's a couple more due to land on our shores later this year too, but the truck that kicked off the obsession was this beast, a custom 1950 Power Wagon. Built for a wealthy US businessman as a hobby-cum-race truck, the roof chop cab sits on a shortened chassis and runs a hot LS3. The truck has since been sold back into the States, but it sure made an impact fitting of its imposing figure while here, securing a top 5 spot at its 2014 Beach Hop debut.
I drove in that morning and everyone was just, mouths were open, you know, it's just amazing. And amazing response by all the hot rodding fraternity, you know, stepped on their toes a little bit, I think. You know, big truck, all looked like hot rod, but it was a lifted truck. So yeah, no, the response was awesome and never looked back.
These days, the fleet isn't quite so modified or showy. Well, that's for the time being at least. And that's something that seems to suit Chris and Kim's location just perfectly.
I like American buildings, and I've been to America like everyone else has, but I've always noticed American buildings. And I thought, old sheds and old buildings go together with hot rod. It's the same thing. It's like that cowboy scene, you know. If you put a hot rod in a cowboy scene, it wouldn't look out of place. So I like that Western style. I've had polished and painted cars and trucks, but it's not important to me today. You know, I want to use them. They're used for the road, and I use them pretty much regularly during the week. If you polish or paint over that history, it's never going to tell the history again. You've lost that history of what the patina was.
And with devious Dodge-shaped plans well underway, doing things a bit outside the square isn't something that's going to change anytime soon.
I've always wanted to have something different from everyone else, you know. I don't know, it's always been who I am. I wanted to be the first person to bring something that has never been in the country. So, you know, here's another truck coming back in the end of this year, and it'll blow the socks off everyone around when you see it. Dodge is in my DNA forever.
Right, feature car time. Thanks to Nitro, please meet Peter's labour of love. No, make that labour of like. A big block 67 Chevy Chevelle.
Just always like that V8 rumble, sort of that nice pure torque and how they went and sounded as they took off up the road. So sort of started when I was 15, bought my first little Tirana, 1900 Opel motor, and always had that big dream of that SLR 5000, but never quite got there. And Mother never wanted me to sort of have a V8 because of the danger factor that it sort of was in her mind, and so I took it up to Auckland and swapped it for a T-bucket. So she didn't talk to me for about 6 months, but I had my V8 and off we went. That was the start of it all. I just like that real sort of Aussie and American muscle look, that traditional look, sort of with the chrome bumpers and sitting nice height, ride height, big wheels, nice big exhaust, and if you can, the motor out the bonnet. If not, sort of making a statement that it's got something pretty angry under the bonnet.
Pete owns or has owned a fair few now that meet that criteria. The most recently completed, of course, being this one. But when he put good mate Clive from Advanced Four-Wheel Equipment to task locating a car out of the US, the Chevelle wasn't actually a car he was looking for, or even particularly liked.
No, not at all. I just said, keep your eye out for something over there that you think I might like. And that could have been anything, Mustang, Camaro. I didn't even picture a Chevelle. It's when he sort of told me, I've got a 67, I sort of looked up and I thought, oh, the 66 don't look too bad. Must be the same shape. And then I didn't realise the 67, 68, every year they changed. As time went by, this thing landed and I was like, oh Christ, I'm not really that fond of it, to be honest.
The Chev's best redeeming feature was its mint body. The car was previously stolen and recovered. The American owner lost interest and the 67 sat dormant under a cover for many years before being offered up for grabs. The deal was struck on Pete's behalf, and the Chevelle made its way to our shores to meet its new owner, who was still trying to decide if he actually liked it.
Oh, well, that went up and down a few times too. Probably once I'd lowered it down, put the bigger feet under it, I thought, oh, it doesn't look too bad. No rust was cut out of the car as such. Had a bit of bog in the back panel where obviously it had a few dents, so rather than knock them out properly, they just put plenty of poo in there, and so we just put a whole new panel and it's come up nice and straight now. And we decided to get it all tuned up in bits and pieces, and after going on the dyno, it was a wee bit of bad news. It was just a big lemon really. Come off the dyno running at about 260 horsepower at the back tyres or something, and that was for a 396 big block of alloy heads, so it sounded the part, but it was just a big pile of lemon going up the road. So yeah, that was the decision maker, to keep it and keep building it or flick it off like it was as just an old plotter. So that night the motor came out, that was the decision made.
A decision he had no shortage of encouragement in.
Well, that's where a good friend of mine, Mike Barry, comes into it from Next Level Automotive. Once you get talking to him, there's no halfway doing it. He's either all in or nothing, so sort of started from that point of conversation with a few beers, and next thing we know, we've got motors heading up and down the country for rebuilding and parts coming in, and it all come together very well.
The 396 now displaces a beefy 454 cubes and is home to a scat crank, HB rods, forged pistons and roller cam, topped with Edelbrock heads. The next trip to the dyno was again a painful one, but for very different reasons. All this newfound horsepower making mincemeat of its US-built driveshaft, also cleaning out the back of the transmission when it went bang. Pete had no option but to shell out for replacements, taking the chance to upgrade to a tough shift-kitted TH400 with high stall converter while he was at it. The combo now dishes up well over 400 horses to the rear treads, and in just 2 strops down Merimeri's quarter has clocked an 11.5. However, this big coupe is still very much a street car.
Oh, on the road's great. Makes the right sound, it's comfortable, plenty of room for you and your mates in it. Made the trip to beach hop and back with no problems. And you get on merry and pulls really well, apart from just having a lap belt. Taking that to a further step now and put a harness in it for next time, so hopefully you'll see it at Father's Day drags.
And all this talk sounds awfully like Pete is starting to sound a little fond of his Chevelle.
Oh, it's growing on me. Yeah, I'm still a real fan of the Aussie muscle cars, to be honest, but this thing here is not far behind them, so we'll see. It could hit the market, who knows, but it won't be this year. We'll have a bit of fun with it first and see how we go.
Want to win big? Prizes don't get much bigger than this one. A massive Teng Tools 417-piece toolkit, 7-drawer cabinet and 6-drawer top box, a complete Maguire's car care pack and a $500 Mount Shop voucher. What do you need to do to be in to win? Simply head to themotorhood.com and hit the Teng Tools Muscle Garage link. Easy. Teng Tools Muscle Garage was proudly brought to you by Teng Tools. Get organised. Mount Shop, undercar specialists. Maguire's, people who love cars love Maguire's. And Need a Car, the easy way to research and buy cars online.